So I'd taken my morning coffee and at the same time scrolling through a list on what's broadly described as a social media feed, but in actual fact it's nothing more than a list of offensive comments from people who in themselves are easily offended. Anyway, that's one side. And this little thing pops up in the feed as an advert. And I scrolled past it initially thinking, that's rather ugly. And then stopped and went back and looked at it again from a perspective of design influence. Now this came with a selection of knives, and the knives didn't look that bad actually. And I just looked at that and thought, a shame it's made of plastic. If that was made of a lovely species, maybe a nice piece of walnut and a bit of maple, that could well be very attractive. So let's do just that. I'm going to use the bandsaw to slice the walnut down into 7mm strips. I'm targeting 6mm as the finished thickness for these pieces, and I'm slicing them down this way because the piece I've got isn't wide enough, so I can then butterfly them together to get that lovely grain effect on the outside. After all, this is all about aesthetic value, really. Incidentally, I've got a 10 TPI fine cut blade installed in the bandsaw at the moment. This blade came from Tuffsaws, I believe, Tuffsaws.co.uk. I'll put the exact link down in the description below. But their blades are absolutely superb. A little bit more expensive than the ones I've been buying from Axminster, but man, do they cut well and last far, far longer. Anyway, once I've got them all cut, I'm going to run them through the drum sander just to smooth out the little cut marks that are left from the bandsaw, and then I can butterfly them, glue them together. So I'm going to need 6 double width pieces to do the 3 bigger knives, and then the 2 smaller knives will come out of an individual piece. So I'm going to have to joint these because they're not good enough to glue together. So I've put them out the clamps, flattened one side on the surface planer, and then ran the other side through on the thicknesser. I've given them a quick sand off, and now, before final sanding, I'm just gonna fill these inclusions. I have ordered one of those glue stick filler systems, but unfortunately it's not here yet. There'll be a video on that coming very soon. So while I'm waiting for the cyano to dry, I'm going to cut the maple. The maple I'm going to use as the divider, the spreader if you like, to create the gap between the 2 walnut panels. And I'm going to use exactly the same approach. Bandsaw, cut slightly large, and then run it down through the drum sander. So my walnut sides are sanded to 120 grit, and I've got my maple strips cut. So I'm ready to glue up the first knife holder. They're the outside, so I'm going to turn that over, and all I'm going to do is glue with some Titebond 3 these little maple strips to the outside and hold it in place with a gazillion of these little plastic clamps. I'll do the same on the other side, and I'll leave that half an hour to go off just to get a bit of tack on it, and then I can glue the other side in place. So the width of the second knife holder needs to be 55mm, plus the width of my strips, 6mm, 12mm, so 67mm, call it 68mm, which will give me 34mm from each side of the center line. I've made a bit of a boo-boo here and completely forgotten to trim it to length. Foolish boy. So I'll take care of that right now. I've given the glue an extra half an hour to go off, so it's had an hour. So it should survive going through the miter saw. And I want this piece as the top. So I'll square up the top, and then I want the overall length at 22 centimeters. And the reason I need them cut to length now is because I want to glue a little piece in at the bottom so that I've got that bit extra support when I glue these pieces to the actual base of the knife holder. So I need to do exactly the same on the holder for the second knife, as in cut it to length. But I also need to put an angle on the bottom. I've measured the angle that's on the piece that I'm cutting, and that's approximately 12 degrees. I'll take these pieces together. So I want a nice clean cut at the top, and then I want the top of this second holder at the 12 degrees to finish just below the top of the first one, and so on and so on and so on. So now I'm going to drop that another 6mm just to reveal that edge, because I'm feeling the need for a bevel there. Right, really happy with that. So I'll glue that up and repeat exactly the same process on the rest of the knife holders. So I've got my first 3 knife holders sorted to size. The straight cut, the vertical one, and then the one that you saw me cut, and I've done the third as well. So I've just got the last 2 to cut to size. So this next one needs to be 160mm long, and this last one 130. So here it is clamped together, just a dry fit, starting to take shape. There's a couple of things that I'd like to do. On the plastic version, there's an angle on this front section here on each of the holders, which I'm going to duplicate, not quite as extreme as they have. What I'm going to do is take a point dead center of each and then cut. I'm going to start with 5-degree angle off of that front section just to add a bit of detail to it. I like that a lot. That's made a major impact on it. including the break out at the front. So I'm going to leave that angle as it is. And now I'm just going to run a bevel across these two front edges. I need to be careful down here. So I've got to stop that just before it breaks into that line. I'm going to stop there because I think with this, less is more. I really love the finish that the router bit gives it, where it just curls up at the edge. And a little tiny light sand all over now, I think, just to soften the edge a bit. I don't want to destroy that nice crisp edge, but I do want to just take the very tiny sharpness out of it. So it's going to be a bit of hand sanding, I think, to finish. Gluing this up was always going to be a fiddly affair. So I've got a piece acting as a right angle, and I've got the base here acting as a flat right angle. If you follow that, poor English, my apologies. But what I am going to have to do is put a little pencil mark on the back so I know where not to glue past. Then I'm going to stay back from front and back because I don't really want any squeeze out. Here goes. I'm keeping it flat down to the base so that when I push it in, it's in as near as, damn it, the correct place. And now for the base. I've got a piece of walnut that I've planed up. It's a little oversized at the moment. I'm not going to go round. I'm going to keep the angular theme. And what I want, I think, is gap on the side. About 25mm has got a nice feel to it. At the front, 35mm at the front. And I'd like 35mm, I think, back from this edge. So let's square down. No, that's not the furthest edge, that is. So I'm going to take 35mm back from that point. And then what I'm thinking is I'd like to put keep that angular theme, although now in seeing that I think they're feeling a little large. That's at 37mm and I think I'd like to see that at 25mm back. Yeah, that feels better. Okay, let's do it. into place. I just want to put a little bit of weight on top, a little bit of pressure. And now for the finish, which of course has got to be, in my opinion, mineral oil, followed by mineral oil and beeswax solution. It's going to have knives in it, so it's got to be food safe, hence the mineral oil. And this, I'm hoping, is going to pop. Get some on the inside. Another reason to choose the mineral oil. So I can just let it drip out again. That way everything's sealed. That is a thing of beauty. I'm already seeing things I'd like to change. And now we'll let it dry. And the final step, the oil and beeswax, which is the sealer. Give it that lovely sheen. So there it is, my version of the 5-knife plastic knife stand in walnut and maple. I think it's come out rather well. Hope you agree. Thanks for watching.